Republican politicians and conservative commentators have many things that they're going to blame the Charleston terrorist attack on. But if you listen to them, the motivation is certainly not racism and white supremacy.
President Barack Obama gave a little press conference on this morning, and he made a reference to the church burning and shooting back in the late 50s, early 60s, as though one relate to the other one. He also implied that racism is still an issue in America today for black people from white folks, when it's absolutely not true.
Department of Justice has now opened a hate crime investigation into this. And we told you that when you came to sit down. But then again, you reminded us that you are familiar with church shootings, and it wasn't a hate crime in what we think of it these days as.
Let's define hate. Hate does not have a color.
We're urging people, wait for the facts, don't jump to conclusions. But I have to tell you, I am deeply concerned that this gunman chose to go into a church, because there does seem to be a rising hostility against Christians across this country because of our biblical views. And I just think it's something that we have to be aware of and not create an atmosphere in which people take out their violent intentions against Christians.
It was released earlier, and extraordinarily, they called it a hate crime. And some look at it as, well, it's because it was a white guy, apparently, and a black church. But you made a great point just a moment ago about the hostility toward Christians. And it was a church, so maybe that's what they're talking about. They haven't explained it to us.
Well, yeah, I don't know whether most people jump to conclusions about race. I long for the day when we stop doing that in our country. But we don't know why he went into a church, but he didn't choose a bar. He didn't choose a basketball court. He chose a church. And we need to be looking at that very closely.
But one thing it's not. Let's talk about what it's not, in my view. It's not a wind into the soul of South Carolina. No. It's not who we are. It's not who our country is. It's about this guy. And this guy's got tons of problems. And to kill people in a church after sitting there with them for an hour tells you how whacked out this kid is. You know, I can't explain this. I don't know what would make a young man at 21 get so sick and twisted to kill 9 people in a church. This is beyond my understanding.
Do you think that it's a hate crime? Do you feel like it's a hate crime, or do you think it's more mentally disturbed?
Probably both. One probably precludes the other. There are real people out there who are organized to kill people in religion and based on race. This guy's just whacked out.
You know, you just can't think that things like this could happen in America. I mean, that's obviously a crime of hate. I mean, I don't know that we don't know the rationale, but I don't know what other rationale could there be? I mean, you're sort of lost that someone would walk into a Bible study at a church and you know, indiscriminately kill people. Pray for those and pray for our country. I mean, this is you know, one of these situations where you just have to take a step back and say, you know, we you talk about the importance of prayer at this time, but you know, we're now seeing assaults on religious liberty that we've never seen before.
Is I also think that we have accepted, or some have accepted, a climate, in fact, of violence. Now, what I mean by that, if you look at video games, our children play video games, and 7 out of 10 of them are violent. Some of our movies are very violent, and we want to see more and more violence. My point is, if we're socialized around all of these things, and certainly we have the right to be, but the question is, should Americans demand something else, a different kind of programming?
You're raising an interesting point, because the initial report about this roof guy is that he was deeply involved with these games on the internet.
It's so embarrassing to watch that. They twist themselves into pretzels to avoid saying what it really is. Now, understand, man, if you make the argument that, well, Kyle, you can't just say it's white supremacy and that ideology, and you can't say it's, you know, guns being the vessel to the crime. So don't talk about just those things. Come on, Kyle, be open-minded. Let's talk a little bit about how the guy really is crazy. Or perhaps the guy did have mental health issues and he was depressed. Or perhaps he was going through drug withdrawal, because we know he had used Xanax heavily and he used Suboxone. If you want to say that all that stuff played a role, and perhaps social isolation and the fact that he was really awkward and not, you know, a part of society, that all played a role as well. If you want to say that, those are all fair points. But then you need to say the thing that follows it, which is all of those things could have contributed to pushing him in the direction of joining with the ideology of overt racism and white supremacy and joining a hate group, as his parents said that he did, being pro-apartheid, being in favor of the Confederacy, loving Rhodesia, the racist country, and having all of those beliefs, which then led to the shooting. So, look, you can say, hey, it's 100% ideological. It's purely based on white supremacy, and there's the evidence right there. We see the quotes he said, I have to do it, the blacks are taking over the world. You could say it's purely based on that, or you could say it's a little more complex. There's depression and drug withdrawal and social isolation, and that all played into it as well, and it's a percentage, it's a mix, but still a big part is white supremacy, or you could say that. But you definitely can't say exactly what they're saying. That's the one thing that's off the table that we know is untrue. How they're like, you can't even, don't even consider race, it's not even in the conversation, leave it aside, it's over, stop.